Welcome to Leaders Arise with Joyful Julie. Join us as we explore life-changing, freedom-releasing biblical truths to empower leaders and patriots to reach their full potential, cancel out fraudulent beliefs, and increase in influence and financial success. Let's get started. Leaders Arise Tribe, as always, it's good to see all of you again today, or just be with you by audio. But I'm super excited to kind of offer this part 2 in our series on communication, and I'm calling this episode Brave Conversations Made Easy. I am going to be sharing again my screen today. And so for those of you who are listening by audio, you might want to hop on to YouTube and go to the Julie Court YouTube channel, and you'll find this episode there. But if not, I'm going to be covering all of it by audio. So those who are driving to work or working out, you can just go right ahead and listen just like always. I just wanted to provide this in visual format in case some of you are interested in that. And also the PowerPoint that I'm going to be sharing from is going to be available for purchase at my store at newlifefortoday.com for a nominal fee. And that will help keep the podcast on the air. You are, however, always allowed to go on to New Life for Today and request by the contact tab a successful communicator quick start, and then I will go ahead and email that to you. And I always do appreciate your comments. I appreciate comments that listeners have sent in recently or told me privately about how much the podcast is helping them to get through some of the trials and struggles that they're going through. And so the purpose is to help people arise in these days to fulfill their purpose in the earth. And so I'm glad that it's helping you. So let's get started. But basically, this is out of my Brave Conversations Made Easy PowerPoint and presentation. And I'm just going to review a little bit from last week. There is a weak conversations model that we're trying to circumvent as leaders, as parents, as educators, as politicians, as those in the media. We all need to sometimes have brave conversations about issues in our lives. And a weak communications model, unfortunately, starts out from a platform of mistrust and fear. And that platform ends up going through or resulting in a process of half-truths and mind games. And we all know that conversations that we're having to try to solve problems don't go anywhere when we can't get down to how we really feel and what the problem really is. And when we use power trips and mind games to get people to manipulate them into doing what we want. The graphic then talks about the results of these kind of conversations being sabotage and keeping on possibly an unhealthy status quo. So what we really want to do instead, and I'll see if I can get this right, is we want to have a strong communications model. And in this strong communications model, what we really want is we want to start out with the goal of having a platform based on respect and trust, because that is the foundation of all healthy communication. Then, once we've established that foundation, we are then safe to talk about the problems and identify them. And once they come out of the dark and into the light, and instead of attacking the person, we can analyze the problem, then solutions, talking about all the different kind of solutions that we can have for this problem is made easy in the process. But the beautiful thing is that as we try to move forward toward these agreed upon solutions based on mutual understanding, the result is then growth and teamwork. And it's really when we have growth and when we have teamwork that then we can go forward into better relationships at work and at home. So that, like I said, this PowerPoint is available upon request, and the active listening description that we talked about last week is available by requesting that document at the website newlifefortoday.com. Now, the first step of Brave Conversations Made Easy is to start with something affirming of your current relationship and a common goal. So you might start out by talking to your child, let's say, and you might say, you know, Johnny, I just really love you. And I am so glad that I'm your mom and that we have so much fun together. Now, that might be easy for some people, and it might be really hard for others to do that in a very authentic and vulnerable way. But what you're really doing is you're establishing connection. Now, you might want to do this at work, and you might want to do this with a coworker. It might sound like, hi, John, how are you today? You know, I'm just have enjoyed working with you so much, and I love how our department is making progress toward our goals. That would be establishing connection at work. You can also make other types of confirmations with that spouse or significant other of yours. It might sound like, you know, I really love being married to you. And I've really enjoyed the closeness that we've been developing. Now, some of you would be like, whoa, I don't talk like that. Well, every single thing that I'm presenting today has to be tailored by you to your voice, whether you're male or female, whether you're feely or not quite so feely touchy. But what you do have to do is affirm the other person in the relationship and try to attach it to some sort of common goal or purpose. So that's step one of having brave conversations made easy. Now, the second step of the process is probably some of the most difficult for most people because some of us are not comfortable with conflict resolution. Some of us are afraid of bringing up things and making them worse. But I have found that bringing up issues and talking about them, it makes relationships so much stronger. It makes relationships so much more productive. It makes relationships so much more reliable. And so if you look at the sample process, and this is part one of step two, is that these are 3 ways that you could use in succession or that you could use by themselves in bringing up a problem. So you could start out with, well, Johnny, I would like to talk to you about something today. I'm concerned when you aren't telling the truth when you're afraid that you're going to get in trouble. Now, that would be the use of the phrase, I am concerned when. So this actually can help you to bring up an issue in a very affirming and loving way because you're expressing concern. You're not blaming anyone. You're just bringing up an issue. There might be a time when it might be tricky to bring up an issue with a leader or a coworker or your boss. And another phrase that you could use to bring up a problem would be, I would like to talk about how you have problems communicating in our team meetings because I would like to prevent others not knowing what your input is and how much you have to add to conversations. So this is a phrase that you could use. I would like to talk about, and then name the issue, because I would like to prevent a negative consequence. Now, in this case, the reason that I like this sort of idea is because it can bring up a problem with a leader or a coworker or a family member. And you're really expressing that we need to talk about this because it's for our well-being and it's to prevent more pain. It's to prevent some bad consequence. And usually other people will want to avoid those negative consequences coming into reality as well. So that is a second way of bringing up the issue, which is actually step 2, is bringing up the problem. And this is where a lot of people have issues. Now, when I was helping with marriage communication, I also brought up another way of bringing up the problem. And that is, when you do X in situation Y, I feel Z. And so this might be, let's say you're talking to your spouse and you would say, when you come home late and don't tell me, or let me phrase that again, when you don't tell me or call me when you're going to be late, I feel anxiety. And then when you walk in the door, I'm not as relieved as I would have been because I'm mad. So this is an XYZ formula for bringing up a problem. This is probably the most direct way to bring things up. When you do X in situation Y, I feel Z. So this is where the conversation continues. And this is where we have to engage our partner, our coworker, our child, the person that we're trying to have a brave conversation with. And this is where we get to ask them, and this is where today's relates to our podcast from last week. And you can ask them the question, are you willing to use the tool of active listening to make sure that we are both heard and can work toward mutual understanding of this problem, of this issue, of this situation? So after you bring up the problem, then you can bring in the tool of active listening. So when we bring in the tool of active listening, this is where we can ensure mutual understanding, because in using the speaker and the listener roles, both viewpoints concerning the problem can be understood. And you can go back and forth, the first person being the speaker and then the other person listening. And then the other person gets to be the speaker. And then their perception of the situation gets to be brought to mutual understanding, trust, and respect until he or she is understood. Then we can actually even flip the conversation back around, and the other speaker can continue on to further develop the true understanding and depth of what's going on. Then they can flip roles again until you can come to that agreement that both people are heard, and feel understood. then the beautiful magic happens. And this is where we can ask, can we now move into brainstorming solutions using active listening? Now, why do I say brainstorming using active listening? Well, sometimes we're used to maybe a certain person being stronger or a certain person having more authority. And so we might not always explore the solutions to the fullest of those people who maybe aren't as confident or don't have as much responsibility, or their voice, right, usually is rather quiet and unassuming. And so when we use active listening to begin to explore brainstorming solutions, you can brainstorm the ideas, but as you go through each one, you want to use the power of active listening so you understand what it was that the person brought up the solution, what were they actually thinking and how would it work? And then you can brainstorm, well, that's what that solution would look like. And then you can move into the next solution and what that solution would look like. Now, can you imagine really understanding a problem from the aspect of everyone involved and being able to do that without blame, without making false assumptions, but gaining true understanding? And then the beauty, because you haven't attacked anyone, and you've actually sometimes gotten down into the real reasons why we are continuing to have strife in a relationship. And then being able to look at each solution and getting the strengths and weaknesses and how people really feel and why that will and won't work. And we're not analyzing the person, but we're actually looking for the strongest solution that will work for both people. So then what I love about that is that it allows both the speaker and the listener, or both people who are cooperating in this conversation, to offer solutions and to explore the details of them, because then the real strength happens. And when we take someone's idea and we develop it and we analyze it and we treat it as important, then they feel valued. They feel like there's interest and value for their idea being communicated. And this brings them into a fuller position of being able to cooperate toward solutions in the future. It increases trust and respect, and it helps them to have a more confident identity in that relationship and as they go through living. So the beautiful thing is that step 3 of Brave Conversations Made Easy is that we can thank each other. So this might sound like, thank you for being vulnerable and working with me to improve our relationship and being able to work toward an agreed upon solution. So here, we're once again affirming the person. So they're going to be willing to talk about problems or issues concerning them, the workplace, the family. They're going to be willing to talk about these situations in the future, because it's not going to drag them down and make them feel like a victim. It's not going to make them feel like a nothing, like they're not important, like a child, but it's going to give them value and identity. And now their ideas are going to be able to be much more clearly expressed next time. And the beautiful thing is that they might even have the courage to bring up an issue using Brave Conversations Made Easy in 3 simple steps, because they saw that a solution came out of it that actually benefited them, the team, and or their life purpose. Another way to thank someone is saying, I look forward to enjoying working together in the future and working toward greater success. Something where we're affirming the person and we're projecting a positive outlook forward. which brings me to it releases hope for good things to come, which is why one of my favorite phrases is the best is yet to come. So I hope that you've enjoyed today's podcast and Brave Conversations Made Easy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And if you have questions or are interested in details about having me come for a speaking event or my personalized coaching services, you can always contact me at newlifefortoday.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. As always, it would really help if you would like, follow, and share the podcast, and if you'd be willing to make some sort of post on social media or tell a friend so that we can grow the Leaders Arise podcast family. Thank you so much for listening, and bye-bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of Leaders Arise. For more information about my newsletter, speaking events, and coaching services, see newlifefortoday.com.